also to understand how it affects our overall well-being, right? Overall well-being and work-life balance. But before we get into the session, a very quick intro about Nova Benefits. Nova Benefits is an employee wellness platform with a focus primarily on health insurance. We also help companies improve employee well-being through other initiatives such as daily fitness, mental health counseling, and etc. So yeah, welcome to Nova Community Wellness Sessions. Before I actually introduce about the speaker, I want to tell you this. To, we know that the Women's Day is approaching, and today the speaker that we have got is a great inspiration for a lot of women out there. She's Dr. Pritika Chari. She's the only woman in India who's qualified both as a neurologist and neurosurgeon with over 50 years of experience. She has been practicing medicine in Chennai since 1971 and is currently a senior consultant neurologist and neurosurgeon at Kaveri Hospital. She's also an adjunct professor in neurology at MGR Medical University, both in Chennai. Recently, mental health issues have always been on rise, and almost all of us are figuring out ways to address all of them. So she's going to help us with that. She's going to talk a lot about the power of our mind and also to understand how we ourselves can manage our thoughts and how can we make our thoughts better and healthier. She's also going to introduce you to a very fantastic concept, which is stress fit. She's going to help us understand how we can train our own brain to be stress fit in general. So over to you, ma'am. But before that, any questions, any recommendations, or any thoughts or questions that you have, please put that on the chat box. Towards the end of the session, we'll have this question addressed by Dr. Pritika Chari. Over to you, ma'am. Thank you for being with us. Ma'am, you're on mute. Sorry. Yes.
Hi, everybody, and thank you, Shifana, for that lovely introduction. It's a true privilege and a pleasure to be with you because I love empowering the youngsters of this generation. My most important admiration for all of you is that you guys we are very clear on what you want in your life. You're very focused. You're really smart and bright and intelligent. And you guys are our future. And so it's very, very crucial for all of you to maintain your health. And one of the ways in which we have to maintain our health is like when you're physically fit and you fall sick, you recover better. If you are stress fit, where you are emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually fit, then when life happens, like the pandemic has to all of us, when life happens, you are able to face it and bounce back and be resilient. And that is what you can do. And many of us think that the solution is outside. The solution is actually in your own hands. So let me take you through my presentation and just give you a little tips on how you as an individual can do much more for your own personal health. This is actually the last slide, but I want you to read it because by changing your thoughts and your mind, you can change your life. And that is the message that we are going to do in the whole presentation today. We have titled this as, I need to make this small, yeah. We have titled the talk as Mind Your Health because it means putting your mind towards your health. And the reason why I do this, I'm a neurologist, I'm a neurosurgeon, and epileptologist. I'm a doctor. So why am I doing something about the brain for you when I can actually only see you as a patient? My idea is that preventive health is far more important than therapeutic or curative health. And if you don't need to come to me, I think that is the best situation you can be in. See, with the brain, through evolution, it has undergone a lot of changes. Our brains began, we all began. The most primitive brain is from the unicellular organisms, several million years ago. Then we progressed to multicellular organisms. Then we became reptiles. Then we became mammals. And then we finally became primates, and then the human emerged out of that. Now, being a mammal was 200 million years ago. Being a fish or a reptile was 350 million years ago. Now, what has happened is through evolution, this development which happened to us 350 million years ago and 200 million years ago has not completely gone away. It is still there in your brain. So we have it represented in the human as the reptilian brain, which is deep here in the brain stem. We have the mammalian brain, which is represented in the emotional brain. And on top of that, the human brain and the primate brain, which is the rational brain, developed. So this fundamental understanding is very important for us to understand why we do the things we do sometimes, even though we are such highly evolved beings. And once the human brain took shape, it didn't just stay there. It has further evolved and matured. So primitive human was like this. And then slowly the head got bigger, the proportions of the head to the body changed. And what emerged is what is today's description of a human being, which is called Homo sapiens. So this fundamental understanding is very important. The nervous system itself consists of multiple nervous systems. Most of you, when you say nervous system, you think it's the brain and the spinal cord. But that is only the central nervous system. There is a peripheral nervous system where nerves which come out from the brain and nerves which come out from the spinal cord form the peripheral nervous system. And in the peripheral nervous system, you have another nervous system called the autonomic nervous system. You can think of it as the automatic nervous system. It subserves all the automatic functions. Now, these automatic functions are in our reptilian brain or the primitive brain because it is a survival mechanism. See, you do not know that how your heart rate is maintained, how your blood pressure is maintained, how your body temperature is maintained, the sleep-awake cycle. All of this happens automatically. You're doing nothing to contribute towards it. And under the peripheral nervous system, we have the somatic nervous system, which is the nerves that go to the body, the outer body, the muscles, bones, etc. And you have the visceral nervous system, is where the nerves go to the organs inside the body. Now, in the autonomic nervous system, you have two segments called the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. Now, the sympathetic is what energizes you, what gives you, is released when you are stressed. The parasympathetic is the calming nervous system. And there is an automatic nervous system in one more area in your body, which is the gut. It is called the enteric nervous system. Now, this nervous system in the gut can function independently, and there is a coordinated functioning together with the central nervous system and the enteric nervous system. So you need to understand this complex relationship. Then you can understand why your mind and your brain and your endocrine glands can all control your body and the whole health paradigm. And all of this is linked to your immune system as well. So falling ill can start with the mind. Becoming well can also start with the mind. So if you look at the mind-brain-body connection, the autonomic nervous system subserves a lot of functions. It has connections with the immune system. It has connections with our primitive social ancestral body. It has connections with the emotional regions of the brain. It is connected to the mind. It is connected to the connective tissues in your body, the pain pathways, and the enteric nervous system or the nervous system in the gut. And it is also connected to the part of the brain which has our body clocks. It's called chronobiology. We have certain clocks in our body. For instance, the typical clock most of us know is the day-night cycle. We sleep and we wake up. When it gets dark, we go to sleep. A lot of functions in the body change. And there are multiple clocks in the body which keep doing their work automatically. I told you about the sympathetic being an overactive system. It can drive you to loss of control when it's hyperactive. The parasympathetic is like an off switch. It operates through a nerve called the vagus nerve, which has connections to lots of parts of the body, lots of the organs within the body. So in summary, we have three brains. One is in the head, your central nervous system and all its connections. The second is in the gut. The third, there is also an independent nervous system in the heart. Now, all these nervous systems talk to each other all the time. They are not functioning separately. They are capable of autonomous functioning, but they talk to each other all the time. So if you take us as a whole, when we function with some meaning and purpose and love, it's our spirit. And you can call it the soul if you want. 90% of what we think and do and all is in our subconscious mind. Only 5 to 10% is in the conscious mind. So what you actively think, reason, figure out, intellectualize is the conscious mind. What is inside, very deep inside, are your emotions, your beliefs, your feelings. And all of these are programmed into us by the time we are 7 years old. So it lasts you through the lifetime. And so if you had a very strict teacher or a parent or somebody, and they told you this is and many of our shoulds and musts are put into our head at that time. And sometimes they don't serve us in adulthood. The body, of course, the function I told you about, the nerves, the brain, the organs, and the cells. So this is the nervous system, the endocrine system, and the immune system. So there is a new segment in neurology called psycho, neuro, endo, immunology. And all of this is usually studied under that subspecialization, if you want to call it. Now, there are a lot of neurotransmitters produced also in the brain and in the nervous systems, all the nervous systems put together. So serotonin, for instance, is mainly produced in the gut nervous system. Now, adrenaline is produced in a gland which is sitting on top of the kidney called the adrenal gland. Adrenaline and noradrenaline. Dopamine, acetylcholine, glutamate, GABA is all produced inside the brain. Endorphins are natural pain-killing hormones and neurotransmitters. So our job is to keep all these neurotransmitters in balance. And the mind-brain-body immune system link does that. So if you look at, let us take the emotion of anger. So if you look at anger, why do we get angry? Because we are disappointed, we are frustrated, we are making some wrong judgments, we feel rejected, we are afraid. Now, when you're angry, what gets activated is a small little gland in your emotional brain called the amygdala. From the amygdala, the impulse goes to the lowermost part of the brain called the hypothalamus, which is the part of the brain which talks to the endocrine system or the glandular system. The pituitary gland is the master controller of the glandular system. So then from the amygdala to the hypothalamus to the pituitary to the adrenal gland, the stress hormones are produced. Stress hormones are cortisol, adrenaline, and noradrenaline. Now, this is the way when you get angry, the pathway goes and connects all the mind, brain, and body and the organs in the body. There is another way in which it can happen. When this happens, when this stress keeps on happening and persists, we have talked about anger, but there are other emotions, negative emotions also, which function in the same way. If it is very chronic, what happens? Your rational brain, which is the prefrontal cortex, begins to atrophy. And the amygdala actually begins to get bigger. So you start being a reactive person instead of being a proactive, responsive person. And all of this gets programmed into your memory brain, which is the hippocampus. So I've used a lot of medical terms, I've used a lot of high-sounding names, but I hope you understood the concept of the whole thing. You don't have to remember the names, but just understand that a rational brain, an emotional brain, and this kind of link that happens. Now, these are your happy hormones, or if you want to call them the happy neurotransmitters. Dopamine is very necessary for us to feel good and to be motivated. Endorphin is our natural painkiller. Oxytocin encourages social bonding. Mothers have high levels of oxytocin when they have a baby, when they suckle the baby, when a couple holds hands, when you're very fond of your friend and you're in a very positive atmosphere, oxytocin levels peak. If a secretary is got a bad boss, her oxytocins will dip. Serotonin is your happy hormone. It is diminished in depression. And serotonin is largely produced in the enteric nervous system. So your thoughts can literally kill you or heal you. And you always have a choice which route you want to take. Sorry, what is, yeah. So can your thoughts influence your health? Okay, I already gave you the answer. But you did not know that it can actually kill you also if you don't use it right. Okay. So what we think that our emotions are driven directly by the situation or the event. This is what we think drives our emotions, but that's not true. What is happening is when the situation or event happens, it goes into our thoughts and we have this internal dialogue, and that is what influences our emotions and our feelings. So what is emotional wellness? The way we feel is very, very important for emotional wellness. So you have to learn to identify your emotions and to label them. Sometimes we just say, I don't feel good. I just feel frustrated. I feel fed up. That's the way we talk. But you have to learn to identify your emotion and label it, because it gives you clarity on how to deal with it. So you may feel confused, you may feel lonely, sad, happy, angry, scared, nervous. So you have to give it a name. And this is very good, especially when we're teaching children how to manage their emotions. Because your emotions get trapped in your body. These are thermal maps during various emotions. You look at contempt. You're really charged up. You can see it's high energy there. You look at pride. I'm sorry. This is happiness actually. Contempt is this. This is contempt. That is happiness. Look at love. Love is also a high energy. But look at depression. It is low energy. And you will see that each of these, shame, envy, anxiety. Look at anxiety. You're very, very, it is your torso which is energized, which means you're really feeling bad about it. That's why you feel a tightness in your chest, you feel a tightness in your tummy, you feel something turning in your tummy, etc. That's because the autonomic nervous system is, the sympathetic drive is increased. So your physical body is influenced by your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, by the sensory information you take in, and by various things in the environment. So what we should aim for is holistic wellness. And holistic wellness is environmental, physical, emotional, financial, intellectual, social, and spiritual. You can't always be motivated to be taking care of your wellness, but you must learn to be a bit disciplined. And you have to build into your daily life some health practices. So if you look at health, when anybody tells you about health, they'll usually tell you about your diet, your sleep, and your exercise. Very little is told about the effect of stress. And I think by itself, all generations have different forms of stress. But your generation, especially now during the pandemic, has had to suffer terrible stress because many of you have lost jobs. Work from home has no time limit. You all are working beyond hours. You're doing crazy things. So your thoughts are creating your reality. And slowly what happens is you become what you believe is true for you. So you've got only three choices. Either you give in to the whole thing and, ruin your health, or you just give up, don't make an attempt at all, or give it all you got in order to make life better for yourself. So what is emotional wellness? It is having a positive attitude, having high self-esteem. I matter, I'm important, I love myself. A strong sense of self. The ability to recognize and share feelings with yourself and with others in a very constructive way. Because when an emotional trigger happens, it is your amygdala which reacts first. So the brain releases chemicals and the body reacts at the amygdala level. This is an automatic response. But if you just give it a 90-second pause and stay with that emotional trigger and allow it to sink in, you'll find that the emotional circuit need not shake you up and make you reactive. In fact, there is some of the coaches, wellness coaches in the world, there is a lady who advocates what she calls as the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. She says, just say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5-second gap. And she says, straight away, your high energy emotion will dampen down. When you have a painful negative event, you can respond either by closing up and suppressing your feeling and then building it up and having a lot of unprocessed energy in you, and you become vulnerable then. And any future trigger will trigger you off again. Or you can stay open, label your emotions, process them. Then you have what is called as processed energy, and you learn from the negative experience, and no future trigger can really get you to be reactive. So emotional intelligence, which in today's job profile is the sought after requirement in a candidate, much more than your skill sets, much more than your IQ, much more than any other emotion, any other quotient in your health. So it means understanding your emotions, labeling them, managing them, perceiving them. So don't run away from your emotions, but learn how to manage and handle them. So what all components of emotional well-being? You have meaning and purpose in life. So most of you will be told, make your vision, mission statement. Happiness. Learn to be happy. Happiness doesn't happen to you. You have to decide to be happy. If you're emotionally well, there'll be lower levels of stress and anxiety. You have to have very clear values. You have to learn to build positive relationships, be optimistic, find your strengths and play to your strengths. You need to have high self-esteem. You have to realize that you're not alone in the world. These emotional turmoil happens to everybody. How we handle it is the difference. And for that, you need to take charge, have autonomy and competence. So remember that your positive emotions are in the emotional brain, but they are under the control of your higher brain, which is the cognitive control. Also, the people that you're spending time with, the surroundings, your environment, your social relationships, they also influence your positive emotions. And positive emotions have a direct correlation with your happiness and well-being. And all of these, you will see all the arrows are pointing both ways. They're all intimately intertwined and linked. But what stops us from doing this? Why is it that we are not ready to do this? I think you need to put the poll just before I get to this. So we know now that our first reaction is emotional. Most of you have got the answer already, so that's okay. So why is it emotional? Because the brain has got a natural negativity bias. I told you the primitive 350 million years ago brain is still very functional in us. And what is the role of that brain? It is a survival brain. It is meant for you to be safe. So if I am chasing a deer as my prey in primitive man as a hunter, I have to make sure that I don't become prey for the tiger. So my brain is constantly looking out for the tiger in the bush. And so negativity bias is a psychological phenomenon where we pay more attention to and give more weight to the negative rather than the positive experiences. Because when you have a negative experience, it causes stress. And when it causes stress, there is a chemical trigger. I showed you earlier, when there's a trigger, that it goes from there. So if it is a positive experience, there is no stress. So it just flows through the brain and doesn't get stuck there. So this is why when you ask yourself, why can't I stop thinking about the one bad thing that happened when so many good things happened across my life? So negative stimuli, they get more attention, you process it more, you learn better from pain than you do from pleasure. That I think all of us will be very familiar with. When you're, sometimes in health especially, till you fall sick, you don't take care of your health. But once you fall sick, you become very aware and very conscious. That's why insurance companies are there, to help you to get back and understand that good health can be got from pleasure, not from suffering the pain. And in general, people work harder to avoid a loss than to get a gain. So you can also get into what is called as learned helplessness. You say there is a certain stage beyond which you don't wish to make an attempt at all. This is very hard to undo. And in general, negative interactions are more powerful than the positive. The other problem is whatever goes to the amygdala gets into what is called as implicit memory. Now, implicit memory is different from explicit memory. Implicit memory is deeply ingrained, and you cannot forget it. Supposing you had a very traumatic experience in your life, it will get deeply ingrained into implicit memory and mold your belief system. And remember, for one negative experience, you have to have at least 6 positive experiences to outweigh that. But what is our negativity bias doing? When everything is happening well, you're focusing on the one bad thing that happened today and saying things are not good today. And that is because of this connection between the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala. If you respond from the prefrontal cortex, you're responsive. If you do it from the amygdala, you're reactive. There is another phenomenon which interferes with our thinking. It is called amygdala hijacking. Now, the amygdala is important, and how it does when there is a trigger, there is a physical response in your body and in your mind. This leads to changes in your blood flow, blood circulation, BP, heart rate, etc. And that triggers certain brain neurotransmitters and chemical cholesterol and cortisol and all that comes out. And then it causes an acute stress. When you're under acute stress, your reptilian brain, your 350 million year old brain is telling you either fight the trigger or run away from the trigger. So it activates that primitive response. This is the job of the amygdala, so that you remain safe. Now, if there's a fire in the room, suddenly you don't stop and think, should I run, shouldn't I run? You just get up and run. And that is possible because of this coordination. Now, the rational mind is slower. The emotional mind or the amygdala mind is faster. And it senses threat to safety. It disables the rational mind. So when you get up, what do you do when there's a fire? You get up, start running. Then you think, should I run alone? Should I call somebody else? Should I close the door, open the door? Should I change my dress? Should I leave behind my bag? All that comes from the rational mind afterwards. The first thing you do is get up and run. So it jumps to conclusions. Sometimes it can jump to wrong conclusions. And it can also lie to you. You can see a rope and think it's a snake. So this is your reptilian brain doing all this. Then the rational mind, which we as humans developed over time, overrides that and tells it, look here, it's not a real fire, it's only the fire alarm. So take it easy. So it tries to help the emotional mind to make a clear decision. Look at the facts, get all the information, and it will usually give you the truth. So you can be more relaxed when your rational mind is working to override the amygdala. So how can we overcome amygdala hijack? First, be aware there's such a thing as amygdala hijack. Learn to calm down and take control when you're suddenly emotionally very aroused. That's why this 5-second rule is very useful. Try to engage your rational brain or your reasoning brain. Be mindful of bias. All of us have bias from many years of upbringing. I may think that all women drivers drive badly. That may be a bias which I have. So you have to be mindful that you have biases and learn to handle it right. Consciously focus your attention on the situation or the experience and then connect and come to a conclusion. So to rewire your brain, what you need to do is you need to keep doing things persistently. That's why I said you need discipline in your health. If you keep persistently doing, what are you doing? You're making a weak brain pathway into a strong pathway. Just like a path that you walk on, if 10 people walk again and again, it's a clear path. So this is called brain plasticity or neuroplasticity. For that, you can charge your brain with something called BDNF, which is brain-derived neurotropic factor, which actually generates new cells, activates and nourishes and nurtures your brain cells. So neuroplasticity and your BDNF are very important. How can you increase this? You can increase with exercise. You can increase by getting adequate sleep. When you miss sleep, your BDNF levels drop. You can increase it by eating the right kind of diet. When you eat too much fat and sugar, your BDNF drops. You can increase it by managing your stress, because cortisol, which is a stress hormone, acts against BDNF. So you can control your BDNF levels by evolving and developing the correct health practices. So have social connection, stay active, manage your stress, eat a brain healthy diet, get quality sleep, and have some meaning and purpose in your life. Because what we need to have is a balance and alignment between our PQ, which is our physical body, our IQ, which all of you are very good at. We all get our degrees, we get our qualifications, our skill set, all that we are good. Your EQ, which is your emotional wellness, where you have to manage yourself and your relationships. SQ, which is an inner wisdom, which gives you love, compassion, equanimity, inner peace, outer peace. You're able to understand that you have some role in this world to contribute to the world. So there are also, in your generation, the creative intelligence and the innovative intelligence become very, very important, in addition to these quotients which I told you. So we have an initiative called Be Your Best with Dr. Pritika Chari, where we do one-to-one coaching. We have courses, we do regular webinars, we have a club called the Creative Karma Virtual Club. We are launching a club called the Aloha Caregivers Club. So we've got a course on our website, which you can go and take a look, and if you're interested, you can buy, called Change Your Brain, Change Your Health. It's an 8-video self-learning course. If you start from start to finish, it'll take 3 hours to go through it. So with that, all I can have to say is that you understand now why your mind and brain are so powerful, and how by changing your brain, you can change your life. Thank you all for this. Now let's look at the poll.
Yes. Great. So, ma'am, thank you so much. While the poll is going on, it was really incredible to actually understand why we behave in a certain way. So thank you so much for that. I'm going to open the platform for questions. Any questions that you have, please put it on the chat box. I'm going to start with a very simple but very complex concept to understand. Jitendra has asked, what is the difference between mind and brain?
Mind is your software and brain is your hardware.
Well put. Thank you.
Yeah, you need the brain to run the mind. Without the brain, you can't run the mind.
Yes. And Tanvi has asked how to not let situations control our emotions.
I just told you how you have to overcome the amygdala hijacking. I gave you, those various.
Yeah, I think Tanvi, the entire session was about that. So all the techniques that shared is to help us understand how do we respond to situations in a more controlled way. So you can ask very specific questions on what you want ma'am to address further.
Somebody in the chat had written social quotient. If you have your emotional intelligence in place and your spiritual quotient in place, your social quotient will be good, because you'll be able to manage your emotions with others, and your interaction with others. And you'll have a meaning and purpose in your life, which will make you socially a contributor as well.
Yeah. So, ma'am, I also wanted to ask this question, like, if at workplace, I think we all are a part of high performing teams. So at place, sometimes we feel this imposter syndrome, right? We don't feel enough even if we're doing good. So to tackle that, any tips from your side?
Yeah, there is an exercise which many coaches use and I use, and which is very good for you to overcome imposter syndrome. Now, imposter syndrome, for those of you who don't know, is the face that you put on for the world. It may or may not be the real you. So you need to get in touch with the real you. So how do you do that? There is a very simple exercise which can help you to do that and also help you to love, nurture, and cherish yourself. It is called mirror work. It was originated by Louis Hay, and many others have also got modifications of that. What is the first face that you see when you get up in the morning? You go to the mirror. As soon as you wake up, you go to the bathroom and look at your face in the mirror. So learn to say, with using your name, do what is called as mirror work. Mirror work is, hey Pritika, we're having a great day today. I really love you. I'm talking to my mirror, okay? I really love you. Let's have a fantastic day today. I'm very proud of the way you did ABCD, whatever, yesterday. I'm also very willing to forgive you because you botched up that project. You made a mess of it, but it's perfectly all right because you're not going to do that again. You have to talk to yourself. I, Pritika, from now on, totally committed to avoiding procrastination or avoiding being lazy or whatever. So if you do this, and if you have 7 sentences of why you're so proud of yourself, why you're willing to forgive yourself, why you're willing to commit, what you're willing to commit to, are you going to have a fantastic day or not? And you want to keep the promise to yourself. You may break promises to other people, but you will and you do this for 21 days, you will see a perceptible difference. If I am confident, it is because I do my mirror work. So I feel I am enough. I am enough with my good, bad, and ugly. All of it. All of us have all of it. None of us is perfect. I hope that answered your question.
Thanks, ma'am. Another question is about how do we learn to live around people who are negative or have toxic behavior? So adding to that question, I also want to ask you, some of us have managers who are really anxious and have toxic behavior. So how do we, one part of the question is how do we deal with those managers? Second part of the question is, if I'm that manager, how do I ensure that I don't pass on that to my team? So broadly about toxic.
The very fact that you recognize that you are toxic is the first step. Because unfortunately, the manager doesn't realize he's toxic. He or she is toxic. That is where the problem is. So if you are the person and you are even asking a question, how do I manage it? That is, you've already taken the first step. So analyze where you are coming from. Because see, if I am toxic or negative, there is some belief, something which may have been programmed before I was 7 years old, which is working on my mind. So I always, in running my life, I advocate what is called as a self-audit. Once a week, sit down for 1 hour for yourself completely and check if whatever happened in the past 1 week, what went well, what did not go well. If what did not go well, try and see why it did not go well. Could you have done it differently? And what went well, make a note of that, because you can use that. According to neuro-linguistic programming, there is something called modeling. You can use that to model your bad behavior to change the bad behavior into the good behavior. So if you just do this simple reflection exercise once a week, it's amazing how much insights you get. Another thing which gives you how to overcome your negative behavior is gratitude. Right? I have been writing a gratitude journal for 40 years.
Yeah.
Every day, write 3 things. And writing is very important. No use just thinking it and feeling it and all that. When you write it down, put pen to paper, you are really focusing on that particular thing. So you write 3 things you're grateful for, make them 3 different things every day. I'm grateful I woke up today. I'm grateful for this steaming, lovely cup of coffee I'm drinking. I'm grateful the power didn't let me down during the session. I'm grateful that we have the Zoom platform by which we can communicate with so many people. So you can find lots of things to be grateful for. You just have to look for them. So when you count your blessings, you're reinforcing the positivity. And if you write the gratitude diary, another utility that serves is when you're feeling down and out, just flick through the pages of your gratitude diary and your mood will lift. Hey, why am I feeling so bad when I got so many nice things happening in my life? Okay. And about toxic people. We all have toxic people in our families, among our circle, environment, in our job, in our workplace, everywhere. Unfortunately, you cannot just walk away. Walking away is the best way, if you can, so that you don't have any interaction with that person. But unfortunately, that's not an option in many instances. So what you do is minimize your interaction with that person. I call it a parallel line relationship. See, you go your way, I go my way. We'll be civil with each other. Good morning, good afternoon, hi, are you okay, fine, that kind of thing. But don't unnecessarily interact with that person. So if it is a boss who's toxic and you have to work under that person, make sure you study what irritates him or her, what sets them, and try to avoid those interactions. And when they are shouting at you or criticizing you or doing, you just have to learn to get it in here and get it out here. Literally. So mentally you can distance yourself, though physically you can't. And if you are confident, self-esteem is good, and if you know that you are enough, it will bounce off you. And I'm telling you, when your self-esteem and self-confidence are high, it radiates. People will stop being nasty to you because you attract what you give out.
Great. That makes a lot of sense, ma'am. Thank you. One last question.
BDNF, somebody wants to know, it is brain-derived neurotrophic factor.
Ma'am, if that toxin person is one of your best colleagues, how can we help?
Who's that? Sorry. Who was it?
Ma'am, I'm representing Sardar Harman Pal Singh. I'm his wife. Actually, I was also attending the session. I felt it's very fruitful. And really, it's a very good experience to hear you out. And I'm also facing this problem. Actually, it's one of my best friends. Like, she has gone toxic, in your words. How can I help her out with the things?
No, the trouble is, see, when you are dealing with people who are toxic and who are aggressive and difficult, don't try to correct them because they get more aggressive. It is like telling a child, don't do this, they'll do more of it. So don't tell them they're toxic. The time you spend with them, make sure is a harmonious, pleasant kind of time. And no matter how much they insult you or how much they, just don't react. Don't let your amygdala take over. Keep your rational brain functioning all the time. Right. It's hard. You have to learn it. See, we have difficult relationships in family. We have relationships at work. There are colleagues who won't get along. See, we can't all be getting along with everybody. It's not reality.
Actually, my first step was ignorance. I was ignoring her.
No, they don't like to be ignored either, especially if they're close to you.
So I was ignoring the bad
they feel they have to act up some more to get your attention.
So
then it relaxes into an attention-seeking disorder.
Right, you are, ma'am. Right, you are. How can I help her out then? Just by
just being there for her when she's angry, let her shout. Just listen.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Don't make a suggestion how to change. Don't tell her you must do this differently. Don't tell her anything. If you can tell anything, like when I had a cancer diagnosed in December 2016. So I told everybody, look at nobody who is going to come and say, oh my God, this happened to you. Don't, that kind of person, please don't visit me. I told them point blank. I said, if you come, let's talk about the weather. Let's talk about something else. Let us talk about something which makes me, if you can come and make me laugh, fine.
Okay, thank
So
you.
you need to maybe do an activity which will change her mood a little.
Yes, that point was very appropriate when you said now one negativity is equal to 6 of the
Correct.
positivity.
It takes,
And I was
it takes a
thinking,
lot more work.
So thank
it
you.
will work out. It will work
Herman,
out.
one
I think
second.
we are having a personal conversation. I
Yeah.
think we need to give
Yeah. So Herman, one
others
second.
a
I
chance.
think all these details you can ping us. We'll take it for offline and have the questions addressed by Pritika ma'am. But as of now, in the interest of time, ma'am, thank you so much for being here. All the questions that we have on the chat, we will respond to that in our social media platforms or via articles.
You send it to me by email and I will give you the replies.
Yes. Thanks, ma'am. And today, thank you so much for spending your time. And I think some of the, I mean, you just didn't tell us the theories, but you also showed us the techniques and also your life lessons. So thank you so much for that. Team, whoever who is here, please note that we have shared a quiz link along with our feedback link in the chat box. What that means is that a part of the survey is definitely about the feedback. Please, that's important to us. Please share your feedback. Another part of the same link is also about a quiz, something that we have learned through this session. And that's interesting because whoever gives us, the first 3 people to give us the correct answers for the quiz, stand a chance of getting, receiving a 500 rupee Amazon voucher. So all the best, good luck. Please do fill in your quiz in the link given below. So it takes just 2 minutes of your time. I think while you open the link, also thank you so much for spending your time here on a Monday evening, choosing to be here and to be updated about the entire topics that we do, the kind of sessions, the kind of speakers that we have in place. Please do follow us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and also be following us on our website at getnovaapp.com. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you. And bye, everybody. And take care of your health.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you.
Shifana, can I leave?
Yes, ma'am.
Or shall I wait?
Others
wait or can I leave?
It's okay. It's okay. You can leave, and others are filling their forms. So
okay, fine. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye. See you.